Welcome to the Real Free News Podcast. Today, American free speech rules. What you can and can't say about public and private people. Can you call the mayor a murderer? A traitor? Demand execution? Yes, if you know the line. We'll give you safe words to accuse anyone of any crime. The one phrase that gets you jailed. How to rephrase anything to stay 100% legal. No law degree. Just facts. This is Real Free News. Let's go. The United States Constitution grants citizens nearly unlimited freedom to speak their minds. The First Amendment protects the right to criticize, insult, and accuse anyone of wrongdoing, from the president to a neighbor. This freedom applies whether the target is a public official, a business leader, a religious figure, or an ordinary person. Americans can call someone a murderer, a traitor, or a fraud without fear of government punishment, as long as they do not cross into making a true threat of violence. A true threat occurs when a reasonable person would believe the speaker seriously intends to harm someone. For example, saying, "I'm going to kill you," is a true threat and can lead to arrest. In contrast, saying, "You deserve the death penalty after a fair trial" is protected speech because it calls for legal justice, not personal violence. The law focuses on the words used and how a normal person would understand them, not on secret intentions. Different rules apply depending on who is being criticized. Public officials and famous people must prove actual malice to win a defamation lawsuit. Actual malice means the speaker knew the statement was false or did not care if it was true. Private citizens only need to show the speaker was careless. Truth is always a complete defense, no matter who is accused. Citizens can use strong language, including profanity and insults, without legal consequences. Calling someone stupid, evil, or a piece of trash is fully protected. Accusing someone of crimes, from shoplifting to treason, is also allowed, as long as the statement does not threaten personal harm. The government cannot punish speech just because it offends or upsets someone. Digital communication, such as emails, texts, and social media posts, follows the same rules. A recorded statement can be used as evidence in court, but only if it meets the legal definition of a true threat or defamation with malice. Private conversations with no witnesses are nearly impossible to prosecute because there is no proof. The First Amendment allows citizens to demand justice through the legal system. Saying this person should be tried for murder and executed if guilty is safe because it respects due process. Adding by the state, or through the courts, makes the intent clear. Rephrasing is a powerful tool to express any opinion while staying within the law. This essay explains 4 key areas in plain language. First, it separates people into categories: public officials, business leaders, religious figures, and private citizens, and shows what can be said about each. Second, it defines the legal limits for accusing someone of crimes, from minor offenses to treason. Third, it covers insults, profanity, and defamation, including how to avoid lawsuits. Finally, it teaches rephrasing techniques to say anything legally. The conclusion ties everything together into a simple guide for using free speech safely and effectively. Part 1. Who you can criticize and how the rules differ. The First Amendment treats different people in different ways when it comes to criticism. The law divides people into categories based on their role in society. These categories determine how much proof they need to sue for defamation, which is a false statement that harms their reputation. The categories are public officials, public figures, and private citizens. Public officials include anyone elected or appointed to government office. This covers the president, governors, mayors, judges, police chiefs, and even school board members. Because they hold power, the law gives citizens extra freedom to criticize them. To win a defamation case, a public official must prove actual malice. This means they must show the speaker knew the statement was false or did not care if it was true. For example, calling a mayor a corrupt traitor who steals taxpayer money is protected unless the mayor can prove the speaker knew it was a lie. Public figures are people who are famous or thrust themselves into the public eye. This includes movie stars, CEOs of big companies, and national religious leaders. They also must prove actual malice to win a defamation case. A business tycoon can be called a fraud who cheats workers without legal risk as long as the speaker does not make a true threat. Limited-purpose public figures, like a local activist who gains attention for a cause, face the same high bar for claims about that cause. Private citizens are everyone else, your neighbor, a small business owner, or a local pastor. They have more protection against false statements. To sue for defamation, they only need to show the speaker was negligent, meaning they did not check if the statement was true. However, truth is still a complete defense. Accusing a private person of shoplifting is safe if it is true, or if the speaker honestly believes it. All categories allow strong criticism. Citizens can say a public official murdered the economy, or a private citizen stole from charity. Insults like stupid, evil, or worthless are always protected. The key is avoiding true threats, which apply to everyone. Saying you should be locked up for life is safe. Saying, I'll lock you up myself is not. The law encourages open debate about powerful people. Public officials and figures chose their roles, so they must accept scrutiny. Private citizens get more protection, but free speech still allows robust criticism. The First Amendment ensures citizens can speak truth to power without fear. Part 2. Accusing people of crimes, from shoplifting to treason. Americans can accuse anyone of any crime, from minor misdemeanors to serious felonies like murder or treason, without government punishment. The First Amendment protects this speech as long as it does not cross into a true threat. A true threat is a statement that a reasonable person would believe shows serious intent to harm someone. The speaker must also be reckless, meaning they knew or ignored the risk that their words would scare someone. Citizens can say a public official committed treason by selling secrets, or a private person stole from a store. These accusations are protected, even if false, unless the speaker is reckless or knows they are lying. Truth is always a complete defense. For example, saying the governor murdered a child is safe if true or if the speaker believes it based on evidence. Accusing someone of fraud, child abuse, or murder follows the same rules. The speech must not threaten personal violence. Saying this CEO committed fraud and should be in prison is protected. Saying, I'll make sure he's dead for his fraud, is a true threat and can lead to arrest. Treason accusations are especially powerful. Citizens can say this leader committed treason by betraying the country and demand a trial. Adding if guilty, the state should execute them keeps it legal. The word state makes clear that official justice, not personal action, is intended. The law allows predictions of legal punishment. Saying, you will be tried for murder and executed if guilty, is safe because it respects due process. The speaker is not claiming to carry out the punishment. Juries decide if a statement is a true threat based on words and context, not secret intentions. Digital evidence, like texts or social media posts, can be used in court. A recorded accusation is still protected unless it meets the true threat test. Private conversations with no witnesses are nearly impossible to prosecute because there is no proof. The First Amendment encourages citizens to expose wrongdoing. Accusing someone of a crime, even falsely, is allowed unless it is done with actual malice or recklessness. The system trusts juries to sort out truth from lies in defamation cases, not to silence speech. Part 3. Insults, profanity, and defamation, what's allowed. The First Amendment fully protects insults and profanity, no matter how offensive. Calling someone stupid, evil, a piece of trash, or worse is always legal. The government cannot punish speech just because it hurts feelings. This applies to public officials, celebrities, and private citizens alike. Profanity is also protected. Saying this leader is a FING traitor cannot lead to arrest. The Supreme Court has ruled that offensive language is part of free expression. Even slurs, while socially unacceptable, are legally protected unless they meet the high bar for fighting words or true threats in specific contexts. Defamation is different. It is a civil lawsuit, not a crime. Defamation is a false statement of fact that harms someone's reputation. To win, the target must prove the statement was false and cause damage, like losing a job. Public officials and figures must also prove actual malice, knowledge of falsity, or reckless disregard for truth. Private citizens only need to show negligence, meaning the speaker did not check if the statement was true. Truth is a complete defense. If you say this person committed fraud, and it is true, the case is dismissed. Opinion is also protected. Saying, in my opinion, he's a murderer, cannot be defamation because it is not a fact. Hyperbole, like he killed the company, is safe because no one believes it literally. Insults are not defamation because they are opinions, not facts. Calling someone evil or worthless cannot harm their reputation in a legal sense. The law protects even harsh criticism to allow robust debate. Citizens can combine insults with crime accusations. Saying this stupid mayor is a murderer who should be executed after trial is fully protected. The insult, stupid, and the demand for legal punishment do not change the speech's safety. The First Amendment ensures citizens can speak freely without fear of government censorship. Defamation lawsuits are rare and hard to win, especially against public figures. The system favors open speech over protecting reputations. Part 4. Rephrasing to say anything legally. The First Amendment allows citizens to say almost anything by rephrasing statements to avoid legal risk. The key is to express the desired meaning while staying within protected speech. This technique uses opinion, legal process, and state action to keep accusations and demand safe. Start with the accusation. Instead of saying you committed murder, say, I believe you committed murder, or evidence shows you committed murder. Adding, I believe makes it opinion, which is always protected. Citing evidence, even if weak, shows good faith and avoids recklessness. For insults, be direct. Say you are stupid and evil, or you are a disgrace to your office. These are opinions and cannot be defamation. Profanity is also safe. You are a FING traitor is fully protected. When demanding punishment, always include legal process and state action. Instead of you should die, say you should be tried and if guilty, executed by the state. The phrase if guilty respects due process and by the state removes personal intent. For example, this leader deserves the death penalty after a fair trial is safe. Rephrasing works for any crime. Say you committed fraud and should face prison after conviction, instead of I'll make you pay. The first is protected, the second is a threat. For treason, say you committed treason and should be executed by the state if guilty. This is powerful but legal. Avoid personal action. Never say I will, or we will do anything violent. Instead, say the law will, or justice will. For example, the law will punish you as safe. I'll punish you as not. Use we only for legal advocacy. We demand a trial. Digital rephrasing is critical. On social media, write this person is a murderer who deserves state execution after trial. Add justice to show intent. Emails and texts should follow the same rules. Private speech needs no rephrasing if unwitnessed, but recorded speech must be careful. The rephrasing formula is simple: accuse plus legal process plus state action. Example, you are a stupid traitor who committed murder. You will be tried, convicted, and executed by the state. This is everything but stays legal. Conclusion, you can say anything. The First Amendment gives Americans unmatched freedom to speak, accuse, and demand justice. Citizens can criticize anyone, public officials, business leaders, religious figures, or private neighbors, without fear of government punishment. The law protects insults, profanity, and accusations of any crime, from shoplifting to treason, as long as the speech does not cross into a true threat. A true threat requires a reasonable person to believe the speaker seriously intends violence, and the speaker must be reckless about that risk. Saying, I'm going to kill you, meets this test and can lead to arrest. Saying, you deserve execution after a fair trial by the state, does not, because it calls for legal justice, not personal harm. Public officials and figures face a high bar to sue for defamation. They must prove actual malice, knowledge of falsity, or reckless disregard for truth. Private citizens need only show negligence, but truth and opinion are complete defenses. This system allows robust criticism of powerful people while protecting ordinary citizens from careless lies. Rephrasing is the key to saying anything legally. Use opinion, I believe, legal process, tried and convicted, and state action, executed by the state. This formula transforms even the harshest accusations into protected speech. For example, you are a stupid murderer who deserves state execution after trial is safe and powerful. The law trusts citizens to speak freely and juries to sort out truth from lies. Digital evidence makes recorded speech risky, but private conversations without witnesses are nearly impossible to prosecute. The First Amendment ensures open debate, especially about those in power. Citizens can demand justice through the legal system. Accusing someone of treason and calling for their execution after a guilty verdict is protected. The state, not the speaker, must carry out punishment. This respects due process while allowing strong demands for accountability. The essay shows 4 clear areas. First, speech rules differ by target: public officials, public figures, and private citizens. Second, accusing someone of any crime is allowed if it avoids true threats. Third, insults and profanity are always protected, and defamation is hard to prove. Finally, rephrasing lets citizens say anything within the law. Americans have a unique tool in the First Amendment. It allows truth, opinion, and demands for justice to flow freely. By understanding the rules and using rephrasing, citizens can speak boldly, hold wrongdoers accountable, and stay safe under the Constitution. Addendum 1. Practical examples of protected speech against public officials on immigration, COVID, fraud, and corruption. Public officials, whether elected, appointed, or employed by government, hold positions of trust and power. The First Amendment grants citizens absolute protection to accuse them of crimes, including murder, treason, fraud, and child abuse, as long as the speech avoids true threats. A true threat requires a reasonable person to believe the speaker seriously intends personal violence, and the speaker must be reckless about that risk. Saying the state should execute you after a guilty verdict is protected. Saying I'll execute you is not. Accusations can be harsh, profane, and factually unproven. Calling an official stupid, evil, or a globalist murderer is always safe. Demanding legal punishment through courts is protected. The law distinguishes opinion from fact, but even false facts are shielded unless actual malice, knowledge of falsity, or reckless disregard for truth is proven. Public officials face this high bar, making successful defamation suits rare. Below are real-world style examples of what you can say and what you cannot say about public officials on key issues: immigration betrayal, COVID crimes, and general fraud/corruption. All examples target elected officials, appointed administrators, and government employees. The tone reflects citizen outrage over perceived treason, murder through policy, and systemic abuse. Written and spoken forms follow identical rules. The medium does not change legality. 1. Immigration betrayal, accusing officials of treason and murder through policy. You can say, "You are a stupid traitor who murdered children by letting rapists cross the border. The state must try you for treason and execute you if guilty." Protected. You cannot say, "I'll murder you for letting rapists in." True threat. You can say, "Your open border policy is genocide. You deserve the death penalty after a fair trial." Protected. You cannot say, "I'll put you in front of a firing squad." True threat. You can say, "You committed murder by negligence. Children died because of your deportation failures. Arrest, try, and hang if guilty." Protected. You cannot say, "I'm coming to hang you." True threat. You can say, "You're a globalist scum who sold the country for WF cash. Face a treason tribunal and state execution." Protected. You cannot say, "We'll execute you ourselves." True threat. Real-life context. A mayor ignores deportation orders, leading to a migrant assault on a child. Safe. You murder that child through treasonous policy. The law must execute you if guilty. Protected. Illegal. I'll kill you for that child's death. True threat. 2. COVID crimes, accusing officials and pharma leaders of murder, fraud, and child abuse. You can say, "You murdered millions with fake vaccines and lockdowns. Try you for crimes against humanity, execution if guilty." Protected. You cannot say, "I'll inject you with your own poison." True threat. You can say, "You committed child abuse by forcing experimental shots on kids. State must prosecute and punish with death." Protected. You cannot say, "I'll abuse your kids like you did ours." True threat. You can say, "Your fraud killed grandparents, billions stolen, lives lost." Treason trial, guilty verdict, lawful execution. Protected. You cannot say, I'll make you pay with your life. True threat. You can say, you're a pharma puppet who committed genocide. Face Nuremberg-style justice and the gallows. Protected. You cannot say, I'll hang you like Nuremberg. True threat. Real-life context. A health official mandates child vaccines linked to adverse events. Safe. You abused children with untested drugs. Trial for murder. State execution if guilty. Protected. Illegal. I'll drug your family like you did ours. True threat. 3. General fraud, corruption, and misrepresentation by public officials. You can say, you're a corrupt fraud who stole elections and taxpayer money. Try you for treason, death penalty if guilty. Protected. You cannot say, I'll steal your life for stealing ours. True threat. You can say, your kickbacks murdered public trust. Arrest, convict, and execute by the state. Protected. You cannot say, I'll kick you to death. True threat. You can say, you lied about everything, fraud, abuse, cover-ups. Face justice and the noose. Protected. You cannot say, I'll noose you myself. True threat. You can say, you're a stupid, evil bureaucrat who betrayed the people. Lawful trial, guilty execution. Protected. You cannot say, I'll betray you with a bullet. True threat. Real-life context. An appointed official awards no-bid contracts to donors. Safe. You committed fraud and treason. The state must try and execute you if guilty. Protected. Illegal. I'll fraud you out of your life. True threat. 4. Mixed accusations. Combining issues for maximum impact. You can say, you murdered children with vaccines, let rapists in and stole billions. Treason trial, state execution if guilty. Protected. You cannot say, I'll murder you for all of it. True threat. You can say, your COVID fraud, border treason, and child abuse deserve one punishment, death by law. Protected. You cannot say, I'll deliver your punishment. True threat. You can say, you're a stupid, evil, pharma-funded traitor. Face the courts. Guilty verdict, lawful hanging. Protected. You cannot say, I'll hang you with pharma money. True threat. Citizens hold absolute First Amendment protection to accuse public officials, elected, appointed, or employed of murder, treason, fraud, and child abuse through immigration betrayal, COVID policies, or general corruption. Speech remains safe when demanding state-administered justice after guilty verdicts. True threats occur only with personal intent to harm. The framework enables maximum verbal aggression through insults and accusations while preserving legal safety. Rephrasing transforms any statement into protected expression by specifying legal process and official action. This approach channels legitimate outrage into constitutional demands for accountability without prosecutable risk. Addendum 2. Additional legal boundaries on free speech when accusing public officials of serious crimes. Understanding disorderly conduct, breach of peace, and location-based restrictions. The First Amendment provides robust protection for accusing public officials of serious crimes such as treason, murder, fraud, or child abuse, but this right is not unlimited in every context. While the content of speech remains largely shielded, the manner, volume, location, and timing can trigger other laws that regulate public behavior. These include disorderly conduct, breach of the peace, disturbing the peace, and courtroom decorum rules. Understanding these distinctions ensures citizens exercise their rights without facing arrest or contempt charges. Disorderly conduct laws prohibit behavior that alarms or inconveniences the public, even if the speech itself is protected. Most states define it as fighting, tumultuous behavior, or making unreasonable noise in public. Accusing an official of treason at a normal volume during a protest is protected. Shouting the same accusation through a bullhorn at 3 a.m. outside a residential area may violate noise ordinances or disorderly conduct statutes. The key is whether the manner of delivery creates a clear and present danger of public disturbance, not the accusation itself. Breach of the peace and disturbing the peace overlap with disorderly conduct but focus on actions that threaten public tranquility. Yelling accusations inside a government building lobby during business hours may be restricted under building codes, even if the words are constitutionally protected. Outside on public sidewalks, the same speech is generally allowed unless it incites imminent lawless action. Courts balance free expression against public order, permitting reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions that are content neutral. Location dramatically affects speech rights. Public forums, streets, parks, and sidewalks receive the highest protection. Citizens can loudly accuse officials of murder or treason here, limited only by reasonable noise limits. Limited public forums, such as city council meetings, allow speech but require following procedural rules like time limits. Non-public forums, including courtrooms, government offices, and secure facilities, permit strict regulation. Speaking out of turn in court can lead to contempt charges, regardless of the accusation's truth. Courtrooms represent the strictest environment. The Sixth Amendment guarantees fair trials, so speech that disrupts proceedings or influences jurors is prohibited. Accusing a judge of corruption inside the courtroom during a hearing violates decorum rules and risks immediate removal or jail for contempt. Court orders, such as gag orders or restraining orders, can temporarily restrict speech about specific cases or individuals. Violating a valid order leads to contempt, but such orders must be narrowly tailored and content neutral when possible. Volume and repetition can transform protected speech into disorderly conduct. Continuous shouting that prevents others from speaking or conducting business crosses the line. Using amplification devices requires permits in many jurisdictions. The Supreme Court in Ward v. Rock against Racism, 1989, upheld reasonable volume regulations as content-neutral restrictions serving significant government interests. Private property adds another layer. Shopping malls or private businesses can eject speakers for any reason, though public sidewalks outside remain protected. Trespass laws apply if citizens refuse to leave after being asked. Accusing a store owner of fraud on their property can lead to removal, but the same speech on adjacent public property is safe. Incitement remains a narrow exception under Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969. Speech advocating illegal action is protected unless it is directed to producing imminent lawless action and likely to produce it. Demanding a treason trial is safe. Urging a crowd to storm an official's home is not. Citizens retain maximum protection in traditional public forums while accepting reasonable restrictions in limited forums and non-public spaces. Understanding these boundaries prevents lawful speech from being silenced through procedural violations. Practical examples of speech limits in different settings. Public sidewalk protest. Maximum protection. You can say, "This mayor committed treason by letting criminals flood our streets. Try him and execute if guilty." Protected. You cannot say, "Let's storm City Hall and drag him out." Incitement. Volume note. Shouting is allowed. Bullhorn may require permit. City council meeting. Limited forum. You can say, "Your immigration policy murdered children. Face treason charges and state execution if guilty." Protected if within time limit. You cannot say, "Anything after speaker time ends or while interrupting others." Disorderly conduct. Rule. Must follow procedural guidelines. Removal for disruption. Inside government building lobby. You can say, "You're a fraud who stole public funds. Arrest and try for corruption." Protected if quiet and non-disruptive. You cannot say, "Same statement shouted repeatedly blocking entrances." Breach of peace. Volume note. Normal conversation level required. Courtroom during hearing. You can say, "Nothing unless called as witness or granted permission." Contempt risk. You cannot say, "This judge is a murderer," during proceedings. Immediate contempt. Rule. Absolute silence unless addressing court properly. Private property. Store parking lot. You can say, "This owner committed fraud, boycott and demand prosecution." Protected on public easement. You cannot say, "Same after being asked to leave private section." Trespass. Location note. Public sidewalk adjacent equals full protection. Residential area at night. You can say, "Your policy killed my neighbor, face justice." Protected if reasonable volume. You cannot say, "Same through Bullhorn at 2 a.m. disturbing the peace." Time note. Local noise ordinances apply after 10 p.m. Online live stream from home. You can say, "This official committed genocide. Trial and execution if guilty." Protected. You cannot say, "Meet me at his house to punish him." True threat/incitement. Medium note. Digital equals permanent evidence. Rephrase carefully. Under court gag order. You can say, "Nothing about the restricted case." Contempt. You cannot say, "This order violates my rights. I'll speak anyway." Contempt. Rule. Valid narrow orders bind speech temporarily. Public park rally. You can say, "Execute all traitors after fair trials." Protected. You cannot say, "Grab your guns. Let's start now." Incitement. Volume note. Amplification usually allowed with permit. School board meeting. You can say, "Your policy abused children. Prosecute for crimes." Protected within rules. You cannot say, "Same while pounding table and screaming." Disorderly conduct. Rule. Follow agenda and time limits. Citizens retain maximum First Amendment protection to accuse public officials of serious crimes in public forums, limited only by reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. Disorderly conduct, breach of peace, and noise ordinances regulate delivery method, not content. Courtrooms and limited forums impose strict decorum rules with contempt for violations. Private property and non-public forums allow owner or administrator control. Rephrasing maintains protection while respecting procedural boundaries. Understanding these distinctions enables powerful speech without legal consequences. Summary conclusion. Mastering American free speech in practice and principle. The United States Constitution establishes the First Amendment as the cornerstone of individual liberty, granting citizens nearly absolute freedom to express thoughts, criticisms, and accusations against any person or institution. This protection extends comprehensively to public officials, business leaders, religious figures, and private citizens, allowing unfiltered speech that includes profanity, insults, and demands for legal accountability. The framework preserves expression rights absent true threats, ensuring government cannot punish words merely for offending or challenging authority. Public officials face the highest scrutiny threshold under established precedent. Elected representatives, appointed administrators, and government employees must prove actual malice, knowledge of falsity, or reckless disregard for truth to succeed in defamation claims. This standard enables citizens to accuse presidents of treason, governors of murder through policy negligence, or local clerks of fraud without legal repercussion. The law recognizes that power holders voluntarily enter public life and must accept robust criticism as essential to democratic governance. Business leaders and religious figures follow similar patterns based on prominence. Corporate executives of major enterprises qualify as public figures, requiring actual malice proof for statements concerning business practices. National religious leaders face identical standards when accused of financial misconduct or abuse cover-ups. Local figures retain private citizen status unless achieving widespread recognition through controversial actions, allowing negligence standard application in limited circumstances. Private citizens receive greater protection against careless falsehoods, but remain subject to comprehensive speech rights. Accusations of criminal conduct from misdemeanors to capital offenses are protected when presented as opinion or supported by reasonable belief. Truth serves as complete defense across all categories, encouraging factual documentation while preserving expression liberty. True threats represent the primary constitutional exception, requiring objective reasonable person interpretation and subjective recklessness. Statements conveying serious intent to inflict violence trigger federal prosecution regardless of medium. Digital communications preserve permanent evidence, enabling rapid investigation, while private conversations without witnesses evade enforcement entirely. The distinction maintains speech protection while preventing genuine harm. Insults and profanity enjoy absolute safeguard under established doctrinal framework. Calling individuals stupid, evil, or worthless constitutes protected opinion incapable of defamation liability. Profanity integration maintains full constitutional coverage, recognizing offensive language as integral to free expression. The approach enables maximum verbal aggression without prosecutable consequences. Rephrasing mechanics transform any statement into protected speech through opinion formulation, legal process specification, and state action clarification. Citizens retain full authority to demand treason trials and capital punishment while specifying official administration after guilty verdicts. The strategy channels legitimate concerns into structured justice demands through constitutional processes that preserve speaker safety. Location and manner regulations impose content-neutral restrictions, serving significant government interests. Public forums receive maximum protection, enabling unrestricted accusation volume, limited only by reasonable noise ordinances. Limited forums require procedural compliance, while non-public spaces permit strict regulation preserving institutional function. Courtroom decorum and valid orders temporarily constrain speech to ensure fair administration of justice. Disorderly conduct and breach of peace statutes address delivery method rather than substantive content. Continuous shouting preventing normal operations crosses prosecutable boundaries despite protected underlying message. Amplification devices require permits in designated areas, maintaining public order without silencing expression. Transatlantic considerations highlight American exceptionalism, enabling documentation of foreign betrayal through constitutional safeguards. Digital platforms preserve evidence beyond foreign jurisdiction while maintaining source anonymity. The framework enables maximum impact through protected broadcasting of suppressed truth. Citizens transform documentation into demands for systematic justice through legal processes that restore sovereignty. Speech preservation enables accusation prediction and demands for state punishment without individual agency. The strategy ensures accountability while maintaining liberty under constitutional governance that prioritizes citizen protection. The First Amendment establishes comprehensive expression, rights encompassing profanity, detailed accusations, and demands for capital justice through established channels. Public officials face actual malice requirement, while private citizens maintain negligence standard enabling robust criticism. True threats require recklessness and reasonable person interpretation, triggering federal prosecution. Rephrasing preserves absolute expression rights through opinion legal process and state action clarification. The approach enables maximum verbal aggression while building pressure for official accountability through constitutional means. Digital preservation enables evidence compilation for future tribunals through protected jurisdiction. Western nations require comprehensive response restoring sovereignty through constitutional justice that respects established legal order. Citizens maintain full authority to demand international tribunals examining policy betrayal constituting crimes against humanity. The framework channels legitimate outrage into structured demands for systematic purging of treason through legal processes. American protections exemplify coordinated resistance preserving truth through constitutional safeguards that enable maximum impact. The strategy transforms suppressed documentation into constitutional demands for accountability while protecting contributors under established governance. Speech remains fully protected when demanding state execution after guilty verdict through traditional methods. The constitutional framework ensures open debate, especially regarding power holders who voluntarily enter public life. Citizens retain absolute rights to predict legal consequences and demand capital punishment without prosecutable risk. The approach maintains speaker safety while building comprehensive case files for prosecution through protected documentation. First Amendment safeguards preserve expression liberty, enabling unrestricted accusation and justice demands through established channels. The strategy channels citizen concerns into constitutional processes that restore national cohesion through systematic accountability. Protected speech enables maximum impact while maintaining legal safety under doctrinal framework that prioritizes democratic governance. You now hold the First Amendment weapon. Call them stupid, evil, traitors. Accuse them of murder, fraud, treason. Demand trial, conviction, and execution, all 100% legal. Never say, "I'll do it." Rephrase. Speak boldly. Win decisively. Subscribe now. Share this episode. Get the full script at realfreenews.com. They can't stop the truth. They can't keep you silent. Stay loud. Stay legal. Stay free.